about this experiment in sort of small group and intentional, supportive, accountable relationships, right? And somebody brought up, we were talking about like what makes us excited about discipleship relationships like that, and what makes us kind of resist them, right? And somebody shared, well, it can be intimidating sometimes to be with others if we notice that, if we think that others are like, ooh, holier than ourselves, or they're better at praying than ourselves. And we're talking about that, and I said, I know exactly how you feel, because every time Pastor Jeffrey walks in, I feel that way. and so somebody came up to me and laughed, and they said, your prayer has been answered this morning, Emily, because here is Pastor Jeffrey. So I want to warmly welcome again a mentor of mine, a beloved mentor of mine, as well as a seminary professor of mine who is doing the good work down in Claremont, along with bringing up new generations of people that enable and transform and help lead the church. So today, I think Steve already shared, we are beginning a new season. And so I'm going to invite you to take out one of those little welcome cards or prayer cards, because you're going to take a little quiz this morning as we begin, a quiz about Advent. And so some of you are feeling intimidated, like I never got this information. No worries. It's all about learning together. So this isn't meant to shame you or embarrass you. This is just meant to be sort of a fun little exercise to help you remember, well, what are the basics of the season of Advent, right? For some folks, this will be like easy peasy, and some folks will take a little digging around in there, okay? And so there are questions like this, okay? Whoop! It's going to start going, okay? So the first question is this. Advent is one of how many seasons of the liturgical church year? We talk, ooh, I know, Stan, I know, right? So how many, and some people are sitting there already and they're like, what does this have to do with what's happening in the world? I have no idea, but it does enable us to kind of get into the rhythm of the church year. So how many, write down your little answers or think in your head, and we'll come back to it. How many liturgical, some people are using their fingers. It's all good. You can talk about it. This is an open book test, so not a Google book test, so. But you can talk to your fellow pilgrims next to you if you want to. Except no talking to Ari. Right? All right. All right. So the second question is this. Advent, I think I turned on some, whoa! Can you help me go to the next one, but not the next one? So the next question is, Advent begins, not the next one. Oh, okay, stop and go back. There we go, Advent begins how many Sundays before Christmas? How many Sundays? Tony knows this, but you're not going to tell anybody, Tony. You're going to write it down, Tony. How many Christmas before? Oh, it's Sundays. Yeah. Okay, so Ben, help me go to the next one without going all the way crazy again. Oh, all right, technology only. Ben! Gotta be on it, Ben with me. Advent marks the blank of our church year. What is the fill in the blank? Advent marks the of our church year. I know Peggy's like, that is a badly worded question. And I'm feeling that at the moment. Okay, Ben, catch it. Okay. Oh my God, come on. Okay, Advent comes from the Latin adventus, meaning what? We all speak Latin, don't we? Michelle, are you laughing because you're like, I got this so much? Or are you laughing because you're like, I don't know nothing? Really? Oh, mansies. All right. Maybe, Ben, what you can do is help. Well, maybe it's too late already. Okay, next question. Okay, the season of Advent is... Oh, gosh. The season of Advent is characterized by what? What is the spirit that we bring to Advent? What are we doing during Advent? Oh, yes, exactly. Cloud is, I just watched another episode of Marco Polo in which you're supposed to stare down the wolf, and I feel like you're doing that to me. Like, I will stare you down, Emily. I'm not looking away. You can't get me on any of these questions. And the last one, Ben. Okay. The traditional color for Advent is purple, symbolizing what? What does purple symbolize? And more contemporarily, blue. For what? Oh my goodness. Okay, ready? We're going to do this quickly. No? I know, this is a more contemporary manifestation. Kendrick is cheating with his smartphone over there. He's openly cheating. He's like 2. Yeah. All right. So let's go back. Advent is one of how many seasons, friends? Are they correct? Ari?
Name them.
Oh, okay, go. Okay, so let's all help him out. He said Advent, Epiphany, Christmas. Christmas is a season, friends. And then, so Christmas comes before Epiphany, actually. And Epiphany is followed by Lent. Lent is followed by Easter. Easter is followed by Pentecost. Pentecost is followed by? Which is Pentecost? Actually, Pentecost time. So there are 6 seasons. 6 seasons, friends. But we still love Bert. Okay. Advent begins how many Sundays? 4 Sundays. And this year, it perfectly lines up so that the 5th Sunday is on Christmas Day. How wonderful. Advent marks the beginning of our church year. And so I don't remember last year. I have this very firm memory. Last year, Ari kept saying, Happy New Year! Happy New Year! At the sort of end of November, December, and it was always so dissonant producing, right? Because it was like New Year, end of the year, where are we, right? But perhaps that is what it's all about, right, in terms of our church life. And Adventus means coming, right? So we think of Jesus coming in so many different forms. Having already come, is coming, will come. And Advent is characterized by what? Spirit. Waiting. Waiting is a big one. Any other words that we throw out sometimes? Preparing, anticipating, right? Waiting, anticipating, preparing, right? And expectation, definitely. And finally, the color purple. Why we have all the color? Did you notice Jacinto lovely helped us hang the tassels this past week? Thank you, Jacinto. Why purple? Royalty, and this is this color used during a different season also. And penitence. Penitence, that's exactly right. But blue has come into more of the scene. And blue, what do you think that symbolizes? What color does that, what feeling does that evoke for you? Hope. Hope. Blue is for hope. Peggy's like, I do not agree. These are probably random assignations, or they came at a certain time. So here's the thing, friends. I hope you kind of get a sense, Advent, right, lodged into your brain. Park that not in the place where you hold trivia, actually, but in that place where it helps you kind of get the sense of rhythm that we are commonly sharing. We are in the season of Advent. And as we thought about that last question, blue for hope. So I was kicking around this idea of hope this last week. And where I landed was this. You and I, we are people that actually don't need hope, right? I don't know if you'll agree, right? Some of you are looking like, what? Where's Emily going with this, right? But it occurred to me that hope just isn't a significant, critical part of our lives. After all, we are folks, for the most part, that live in warm homes, right, with comfortable beds and a refrigerator, sometimes two, I just learned, in some people's homes, right? Happily stocked with all kinds of food that we enjoy eating. In fact, many of us buy so many groceries that we end up throwing away regularly a portion of it because we just can't get to it in time. We shop in grocery stores whose shelves are so full. It's almost like by magic, nothing ever goes out of stock except the day after Thanksgiving, right? and there's so many things that are there, and there's choices for everything. So many choices. You can get distilled water and sparkling water and artesian water and flavored water and mineral water and sparkling water, just for water, right? And think about that for every other item we look for at the grocery store. And you and I, we are never hungry. I mean, really hungry. Like days of eating only one meal or not at all hungry. Unless, of course, it is by choice. And we live in an area whose water is amazing, right? Just recently, Stephen and I have been noticing a little chlorine smell, and we keep saying, we're going to have to ask Vince about that, right? Because Vince used to work for the watering. But that's the level of our relationship to water, right? We are in the midst of a drought here in the Bay Area in California, but you'd never know it by living here. We turn on our taps, and out comes clean, fresh, clear, healthy, drinkable water. We jump in the shower or draw a bath and relish all that hot, wonderful, or cold, wonderful, if that's your cup of tea, water. And my neighbor's front lawn, I have to say, is looking as gorgeous today as it was 2 years ago, right? Lush, long, and green. We are folks that walk out of our doors every morning without ever thinking or wondering if we'll be back that evening, whether we'll see the other members of our household again, or whether our home will be standing when we return. Why would any of those thoughts ever occur to us? In fact, if they did, people would likely think that we were kind of veering into the paranoid, or losing a touch with reality, or way too worried about the next big one, the next earthquake. We come and go to work and to school and to our volunteer commitments and to our doctor's appointments, either down the street or all the way across the country, without ever fearing for our safety. I mean, sure, right? We encounter kind of crazy drivers on 880, or the person in front of us occasionally does stop way too quickly. And occasionally it is true that we've met up with fearful situations late at night. But for the most part, you and I have no real concepts of bombs and bullets, of rubble or tanks, of snipers or drones. And when we get sick, we just call the advice nurse, right? Or make a doctor's appointment. What's the big deal? We have access to medicines, to specialists, to procedures, to everything we need to save our lives. It never occurs to us that getting sick might be the end of us or of our children, or that if we ever get sick, we might lose our jobs or become saddled with debt that we'd never, ever be able to pay off. You and I, we don't just have enough, we have more than enough. Our concerns have to do with interest rates and the rise and falls of stocks and bonds. We generally do what we want with our money. Eat out when we feel like it, buy a pair of shoes or that beautiful sweater that we saw online or at the store. Maybe even remodel a part of our homes, right? Not because we need to, not because of necessity, but purely because that's what we want to do, right? Because it's convenient, because we can, and why not? Given all of this, I don't think we really need hope. Do you? Hope is more like an added bonus, a really nice extra. But we'd be fine without it. We have reality. I mean, we are fine without it. Just look around you now, right? None of us seems to be holding on by a thin shred to dear life for that shred of hope that we're clutching to dearly in our hearts, does it? But there are folks in the world for whom hope is what sustains them and keeps them alive. There are folks for whom hope is very nearly all that they have, who get by from moment to moment because they believe in something that is not yet. There are folks whose lives need hope. Hope for a different, maybe better, more just, more gentle future. Hope that what is so difficult and painful in this very moment might not be what is into the future. Hope that whatever is difficult and painful to bear in this moment, whatever loss, whatever need, whatever injustice, whatever indignation and horror, will not be so someday. Hope that the dream they have, that the dream God has, might actually be more than a dream, but be able to take hold in reality. And so as I was thinking about all of this, I began to think of the people in Syria. Those who are trapped and those who have fled. I thought of Silver's note to us not so long ago about the drought in Uganda and the many families, he said, who are down to one meal a day. I thought of those hungry right here, those who are cold and wet, those without the basics that I forget to be grateful for. And I thought of people in the birthplace of Jesus, of children growing up under military occupation, of those who have cultivated olive trees for generation after generation, trees that are hundreds of years old, for walls that separate, and for wars that kill. And I thought of water and those taking a stand to protect it for themselves and for each of us. These are the people for whom hope seems most alive and indispensable, who see and feel and touch hope in ways that we might not quite be able to. These are the people who held tight to hope because without hope, there'd be little reason for life. These are the people who actually know something of hope, could teach us about hope. These are the people that the prophets, like Isaiah, were speaking to all those ancient years ago. In Isaiah's time, the people of Judah had little left. If we flip back in Isaiah to chapter 1 and began reading in verse 7, we'd catch a very bleak picture of the situation. It reads this: "Your country lies desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. In your very presence, aliens devour your land. It is desolate, as overthrown by foreigners. And daughter Zion is left like a booth in a vineyard, like a shelter in a cucumber field, like a besieged city. If the Lord of hosts had not left us a few survivors, we would have been like Sodom and become like Gomorrah." And we do know, of course, the association of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The cities that gave us the phrase fire and brimstone, right? It was into this reality, into this desolation and destruction, into this hopelessness that Isaiah shares this picture, this vision from the words from God. "In the days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills. All the nations shall stream to it. Many people shall come and say, 'Come, let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The vision painted, right, is of a flattened and destroyed city now rising to become the highest of the mountains, one that is not the laughingstock of the nations, not the weakest and therefore the most easily picked on, but the one from which God teaches and shines forth, the one where people of all nations seek to travel. And the way, the path that God teaches, enables, inspires, and transforms our bent to damage and harm into energy to bring forth life and nourishment, growth and possibility. I don't know, do we have any iron workers here? You guys have worked recently, done some work with metal, right? But imagine that it's no small little like, here's a little thing to beat swords into a new implement, right? That takes sustained energy, doesn't it, Al? Right? It takes some muscle. It takes some sweat. Now, for us who have everything we need and so much more, it might be hard for us to hear these as anything more than pie in the sky, right? Beautiful but completely unlikely realities. But for Isaiah's original hearers and so many today, these words are not weightless, meaningless, or empty. They cast a gripping vision of hope for God's people, a vision of the future grounded in God's ways of peace with justice. And as a result, transform all the implements of harm and destruction, be they swords or spears, pipelines or missiles, into tools for and of life. Plows for the field and pruning hooks for the vineyards. You have to admit, right, that's quite a picture that Isaiah paints, right? That quite a vision that God gives to him. That's quite a dream to hang your hopes on, isn't it? And the question for us this season of Advent, I think, is how might we learn to hope? How might we learn to hope alongside all those for whom hope is precious and indispensable, all those for whom hope is life? When God's dreams, right, become or mean as much to us, when hope is as tangible and solid as it is to those struggling and harassed, those beleaguered and oppressed, then will the work of waiting and preparing come to life. Then will the work of Advent begin. So my prayer is this. May our hearts be broken wide this Advent, so that the dream of God, the vision of hope, will take root in us and lead us to walk hand in hand in the light of God. Amen.